Hi, so today we're going to talk about what are some of the steps that your food goes through as it moves from the soil of the farm to your plate. And there are a number of steps. So this is typically as it relates to food that you would find at the grocery store. So lettuces that you'd find at the grocery store or the supermarket, that comes from farms that are typically far away. I liken them to factory farms or industrial-based farms because they're churning out large volumes of lettuce and kale and other foods to be able to supply these big box stores and these supermarkets. So it all begins at the soil. It all begins at this farm, at the soil, and the way the soil has been handled or is handled. Before even the seed gets laid down, there's some treatment that the soil receives in terms of a chemical application that primes it for the seed to be sowed. Also, there's machinery running over this soil which turns the soil in such a way or tills the soil in such a way which is a modern day practice. It's not a healthy practice for the plants, and ultimately there's an implication to us when we finally consume that plant. So there are some inputs and some treatments that occur during the pre-harvest or the sowing stage. The soil type is determined for what is best to be grown there. And then once the seed has been sown, and in this particular case, I'm specifically speaking about wheat, which is an ingredient in thousands of different foods that are out there, is a process called desiccation. Desiccation simply means drying out. So there's a number of reasons why a farm or a farmer will desiccate wheat before it's ready for harvest, or dry out the wheat before it's ready for harvest. What they do is they come and they spray it, they dry it out, and then they harvest it. They cannot harvest it if it's not dried out. They have to harvest it once it's sprayed, and it's sprayed with a chemical to dry it out. So as soon as they spray it, they harvest it, and that chemical gets infused into the wheat. And that's one of the main reasons for why wheat has become such a big problem in North America and around the world, is because it hasn't been allowed to be sprouted. And that's the case for a number of our fruits and vegetables, where they're pre-harvested before they're actually ready. So once they're harvested, they've broken the source of the nutrients from the ground, what little there is of it, and then they're allowed to mature, in some cases, along the chain to your plate. So the second part of this step that I'm going to talk about is post-harvesting, which is basically storage. And during storage time, they're sitting on the shelves or in the storage area for some amount of time, and they may also be treated with sprout inhibitors so that they don't sprout right away, because they may be contained in a temperature controlled environment. Then there's processing. Now, if certain foods are being processed or canned, this is where they would happen. And all along the while, they're being transported from one hub to another hub to another hub, and multiple people are touching your food or handling your food. It may not be directly, but certainly your food is being handled in multiple steps along the way before it gets to you. And then there's post-harvesting. Again, I haven't really talked about this, but this all has an impact to the environment, and that impact to the environment could be in the form of greenhouse gases. So if your food is being transported by truck, that truck is emitting carbon into the air, and that's what the GHG is. And not to mention the chemicals that are coming on the food. So at the end of the day, today, our soils are already depleted by 40 to, in some cases, 70% of their nutrients on average. And this process of traveling, which on average is about 10 days worth of traveling, that food, because it's not connected to its source of nutrients anymore, is getting depleted in nutrients. And so by the time it gets to our plate, you're getting 10 cents on the dollar. Literally, it's 10 to 30% of the nutritional value of that food and what it's supposed to have. There's a saying that goes, we need 8 oranges to our grandfather's 1. That's how nutritionally devalued our food is, because ultimately, not only because of the transportation, but also with the treatment of the soil that's going on. Until next time.